everyone, this is Professor Marcel Rominger and we are in Module 8. In this video, we're going to be talking about how to construct and identify different types of seventh chords. Okay, let's talk about seventh chords. So before we proceed, please make sure that you review your scales, your intervals, and your triads. Make sure that you have a working knowledge of these things before we proceed. So if you feel like you're on shaky grounds with any of these topics, please go back, watch some old videos, give yourself a little bit of a quick sort of tutorial before you proceed with this video. So this way you can understand better what we're talking about in this video. Okay, so let's talk about we're going to talk about the three most popular types of seventh chords. But first we're going to talk about how to construct a seventh chord. So how do we build this thing, or how is it constructed? So first you have to take a triad. In this case, we're going to take a major triad. This is C major triad. And then we're going to combine that with the interval of a major seventh. All right, so when we combine these two things, that's when we create our first seventh chord, which is known as a C major major seventh. Now you might see this and say, wait a second, that's a really strange name. Am I seeing double? Is this a typo? No, it's not. All right. So normally we don't call it this, but when we're talking theoretically and we're talking about how to construct these seventh chords, I kind of like to give the full formal name of these seventh chords. So you're going to notice that they're going to have these double names. So this is a C major major seventh. So it's called that because the triad is the major, is a major triad combined with a major seventh. So this creates a C major major seventh. Not to mention that all these notes can be found in a C major scale. So we got a C major triad by stacking the first, third, and fifth notes. So we're stacking them into thirds, the C major scale, and then if we just keep doing that, well then of course we add the seventh. So this is all the notes found in the C major scale, C major major seventh. Okay, now you can see now something's been altered. All right, we added a flat someplace. So what's happening here? Okay, well the triad has remained the same. That is still a major triad. But the seventh has been altered. Okay, it is no longer a major seventh, it is now a minor seventh. Okay, so that means this is known as a major minor seventh. Okay, here's another alteration. So what has happened here? Well, the triad itself has become a minor triad. This is the minor triad, the minor seventh from before. So this would be known as a C minor minor seventh. Okay, now here's some other type of seventh chords. Remember in previous videos we talked about the diminished triad as well as the diminished interval. So let's see how we can incorporate that into our seventh chords. So take a look at this. We've added more flats. So the initial triad that this is based on has now become a diminished triad. My seventh interval of the seventh still remains pretty much the same from before, but we know this is a minor seventh. So we call this a half-diminished seventh because only part of this is diminished, and that's the triad itself. The seventh still remains minor, so half-diminished seventh. Okay, now we have added an extra flat. Now I'm sure you're probably very intrigued by this double flat that's occurring right here. So what's happened is we had a major seventh. We started all of this with a major seventh, then it became a minor seventh, and now it's double flatted, which means we're bringing it, down even more. So this is a sign that something is diminished. All right, so we have the diminished triad plus the diminished seventh. So this is why this is known as a fully diminished seventh chord. All right, so these chords are very interesting, but they also sound very distinct. They're very cool chords to listen to. So why don't we go ahead and do that? Let's start with the C major major seventh. I'm going to play these up an octave than what's written so that it's a little bit easier to hear. So here's C major major seventh. Here's a C major minor 7th. C minor minor 7th. Here's our C half diminished 7th. And here is our fully diminished 7th. All right, now that we've heard them, we've studied them, now it's time for you to go to a keyboard, try them out yourself. Listen to them, get used to their sounds, and we're going to talk a little bit more about them later on.
Okay, so here is a helpful hint when it comes to 7th chords. Actually, this helpful hint will come in two parts. The first thing is kind of like with the triads, when you're creating 7th chords, you're just going to sort of stack them up from space, 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 or line, 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 line. Okay, so it's almost like the same thing with the triads, where you're just stacking them into thirds. Here you're just adding one more note to the top. So very similar to triads, just one more note. Okay, so that's the first hint when it comes to 7th chords. The second hint is take a look at the first interval. So if you take a look at this 7th chord that I have here, try to identify right away if this is a major third or a minor third. Okay, so if you can identify if this is a major third or a minor third, well, that immediately puts the 7th chords into two categories. So if it's a major third, you're dealing with a major major, or you're dealing with a major minor. All right. If it is a minor third, then you're dealing with either a minor minor or one of the half diminished or fully diminished 7th chords. So just by doing that, you kind of get a really good picture of what kind of 7th chord you're working at. So the tip: look at the bottom two notes, all right, and figure out if it's a major or a minor. All right, now for our quick check, let's see if you can figure out what this 7th chord actually is. So pause the video, take a good look at it, see if you can figure out what it is, and once you have the answer, unpause. Did you get the answer? Okay, so if you said this was a D major minor 7th, then you are correct. Okay, if you didn't get the answer, keep studying those 7th chords, all right? And definitely keep studying your scale. So we know that this is based on D, so there is the root of the 7th chord, the D. All right, so why don't we go ahead and write out a D major scale. So I can conduct a really, or write out a really quick D major scale by this time. You should be good at this, and if not, it's just good practice. So there is my D major scale with my two sharps. There they are. You could also just write it in a key signature. Okay, now when I take a look at this, I notice that the F sharp is part of that. So that means that this, the triad, is a major triad. Okay, so we know that that is definitely major. All right, so the first part is major. So I'm going to write that in. Now, take a look at the 7th. If I follow this all the way to the 7th, you see that the 7th note, the 7th scale degree is a C sharp. But this is not a C sharp. This is a C natural. Okay? So therefore, the 7th is not a major 7th. It is actually a minor 7th. All right? So here is the answer. Okay? D major minor 7th. All right, so we notice that the 7th doesn't quite match. All right, so Did you get the right answer? I hope you did, okay? If not, make sure that you keep practicing those scales, write them out, divide the 7th chords into a triad and a 7th, so that this way you can better identify it.